Welcome to Monday. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2022. Welcome to the Day Weather Podcast. It's being brought to you by Chugwater Chili, the gourmet spice of Western life. Don't forget to use Chugwater at checkout, your checkout code, and get 20% off. And while you're there, grab yourself some Chugwater chili seasoning. Green chili seasoning is a quick and easy way to make green chili. It's a great way also to season dishes. So go to chugwaterchili.com. Well, it's going to be a very mild start to the week, then changes are coming. Really, it's going to be, all puns intended, a sweetheart of a day. Temperatures are going to be far above average, and we're looking at lots of sunshine. However, the weather patterns are beginning to change. What we see developing, folks, is a pattern starting to change this week, which will instigate other changes. We've been kind of stuck in basically the same weather pattern for the last 5 or 6 weeks. But for the rest of February into March, the weather in the western United States is going to take on a different look, a different flavor. We have snow and much colder weather coming in late Tuesday through early Thursday across most of the high plains and Rockies. Now, this is not a big storm. You usually don't, in the month of February, get big snow dumps, but it's the beginning of a pattern change that's going to make things more active through the rest of February. We also have some new La Nina information to pass on to you as we take a look at what La Nina is going to do as we go through the rest of winter. Satellite imagery today shows what's going on, and I'm going to pay attention to the North Pacific. See this really impressive swirl here? Basically, this area of low pressure is building a high pressure ridge and then causing another trough to form right here near Vancouver Island right here. This is the system that we showed you last week that was going to slide into the Great Basin, and that's exactly what's going on. When you get storms like this, large storms in the Pacific, the pattern becomes more wavy. So what happens is the jet stream takes more dips and you get more of them. That's why things are going to get more busy here in the coming weeks. And here's today's upper level chart. You can see it right there. The system is small, but it's tight and compact, and it's dragging with it some cold, moist air off the North Pacific, and it's going to dive into the Great Basin. Now, recently, for the last many weeks in a row, systems have been directed more here. Well, they'll come here, they'll clip us, and then they'll swing like this. That's been the storm tracks recently, but now this system is going to swing down like this and then head into the Midwest. High pressure, which for the last many weeks in a row has been more here, more towards just being off the West Coast. That's why California and the desert Southwest has just had very little weather, but that's about ready to change. This is by Tuesday afternoon. The low goes down into Southern California, and then a cold front comes in, bringing much colder Canadian air into Montana, the Pacific Northwest, and Wyoming into Colorado. It's not a terribly organized storm system, but it's going to have the right combination of cold Canadian air, some upslope conditions, and moisture overrunning that cold air to bring us some precipitation. So you can see it's not a terribly organized storm system, but we will have a low here, cold air up here, upslope over that colder air is going to help produce some areas of snow in the northern and central Rockies and make it look colder. And there's the high pressure ridge getting better established there off the West Coast. Notice southwest winds aloft, going to bring a big warm up here, much warmer air to the East Coast and areas of Florida. But the battleground here between the colder Canadian air and the warmer air is going to make for some nasty winter weather in the middle part of the country, as well as here in the western United States. Now, this is the forecast through Thursday for precipitation. Notice we just got greens and blues. This is not a really moist system. Now, it gets more moist as we get closer to the Gulf here, but across western Canada, the Pacific Northwest, California, into the Rocky Mountain states, just lots of solid greens and blues. So, nothing to write home about, but it is going to turn into a pretty good snow event, especially for many areas of Wyoming, western and southwest Montana. We're going to also see a little bit of snow in the Sierra Nevada and the Cascades, finally getting a little bit of snow back into that area. But look at New Mexico and Arizona's mountains, Utah's mountains, finally getting back into a little bit of weather. And you can see this narrow strip right here. Well, this is where there's going to be lots of headaches as the storm comes out of the southern plains and Rockies later in the week. There you go. It's a long band of snow again and ice that'll be moving through the Midwest. So if you're traveling through this part of the country here, Thursday and Friday, you're going to have some winter weather conditions. Temperatures by Thursday morning, pretty cold. The coldest of the cold is going to be up here in south central Canada, up into the Dakotas and into the upper Midwest. And you can see quite the sharp line here between the warm and the cold as that system moves on out. Now, going out farther, this is Sunday. So we're going to have the system come through late tomorrow through Thursday. Then really not much going on as we get on into Friday, Saturday. But by Sunday afternoon and evening, here comes another system swinging on through. And this is going to drag in cold air, Pacific moisture again. So late Sunday into Monday and Tuesday, it's going to get cold and it's going to snow again. This is by Tuesday morning. We've got a deep cold trough settling into the Great Basin and the Rockies, with high pressure staying here in the southeast and high pressure staying here. So this is what we showed you last week, a transition to the lower pressures going into the western United States instead of the central and the east. This is all the way out to Saturday the 26th. Another wave comes in, and we've got a lot of really cold air still up here in the higher latitudes that may have access that comes south into the western United States. And look, the high pressure is still here. When you have a high pressure ridge here and it stays stagnant, these systems coming in are forced to take a track more south into the Great Basin and less into the Midwest. So this is a pattern overall where I think about every 3 days, a pretty decent front is going to come into the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies, bringing more active weather. And these are the temperatures relative to average maybe by the 26th of February. So don't be fooled by this recent spat of mild temperatures, nor the mild temperatures of today. There's plenty of cold up north to come on in, and there's plenty of opportunities in February and March to see some real cold weather move in again. Now, I want to do you a real quick La Nina update. These are the sea surface temperature anomalies as of this past Friday. Anywhere you see blue or green, sea surface temperatures are below their 30-year averages. The reds and the orange means it's a little bit warmer. As we talk about all the time, it's really here, the subtropics, this part of the region here, this is where all the energy that creates a lot of the weather and climate systems across the globe is contained. The coldest La Nina waters are just off the coast of South America here, some pretty cold ones. But this is an area we've showed you that's not as cold. This area here is showing some warming, which is good. And this is a trend I think we'll see continue, albeit really slowly. Also of note, you see these colder water temperatures up along the west coast of Canada, Gulf of Alaska area here. These cold sea surface temperatures are something we saw in 2011, which made it a wet spring in the mountains especially. Compared to where we were a year ago, this is where we were a year ago. See how much colder it was in the western Pacific? It was cold all the way across. Basically what I'm showing you here is that La Nina now is still robust, but not as strong as La Nina was a year ago. Now, I want to show you something really interesting. I want to go back and show you over the past year the heat content of the Pacific between 100 west longitude and 180 west longitude. Basically, what I'm showing you is that region of the Pacific near the equator there, and this is more focused in on the western part. A year ago, okay, at that time, we were definitely at a -1 Celsius, a definite La Nina, but we warmed up the heat content, basically the upper part of that Pacific in March and April of last year got warmer. And this is one reason why we did see a more active March last year. The sea surface temperatures in that western part of the Pacific started to get out of the La Nina phase, not El Nino, but they got out of La Nina. And then we got in the summer, and boy, La Nina just came back with vengeance right here, reaching its peak in October and November. See what's going on right here? So we have seen the heat content in the Western Pacific beginning to increase a little bit. That's good news. And I think this is one reason why, it's not all of the reason, but it's one reason why we're going to start to see the weather pattern in the western United States get more busy for the rest of February into March. More busy meaning more frequent snow chances in the mountains. Good news for the snowpack and skiers, but also for folks who are calving or getting into calving operations. You're going to have to stay on your toes as the weather pattern is going to get more busy. They did also update late last week the statistical probabilities right here of La Nina, a neutral phase, or El Nino. One thing we're not going to see, you just don't see the probabilities of El Nino getting much past 20% by fall. But what you want to notice here, so we're in this time range right here where we're basically in the La Nina phase. But you see here, it's slowly weakening to the point to where by May, June, and July, the statistical probabilities of a neutral situation, which means it's not an El Nino, it's not a La Nina, it's in that neutral phase, is there by May, June, and July. And then that neutral phase is going to continue with the trend of those warmer sea surface temperatures going up as we get into the fall season. Again, there's no El Nino coming. That's not going to happen. But we got to get rid of this La Nina first. It's going to die a slow death, but La Nina will slowly fade by late spring and especially by summer. And that's good news for the western United States and parts of the central United States when it comes to precipitation. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll have an update on the storm system rolling in tomorrow night and Wednesday.